Welcome back for the second time to
Hey, technical difficulties.
Native Honor Hours. Our first attempt sort of went awry.
You broke the
It was
camera.
your fault, man. All the things you do to mess and
You know what?
sabotage this
You and I
program.
don't even wait until the other sentence is done before we're blaming each other. Anything that happens is his fault.
But we're here to
Back in the beautiful CEC building
yes, it
on the
is.
University of Nebraska at Omaha campus. I'm even rocking my UNO garb today.
As we were saying before, we had to start all over again. This is one of the nicer rooms.
It really is, and this is what the CEC is for, community outreach. And we're outreaching to at least 14 people,
At least
maybe 15. You never know.
you
You know
never
what,
know.
though? Do weird people tell you they see our show on TV and watch it?
Occasionally, yes, I get people that will. You know what? I had had one of the janitors that's that we know, and those are the best. You got to be in tight with them because they have keys, they know everything. They
Yep.
you just gotta. And there's one I used to feed him. We used to have food in my classes, and he used to come by. And we're buddies now, and he come up to me and he said, Ed, I saw you on your show. He started talking about the show. I'm thinking, man, what kind of life do you lead that
Watch our
you
show.
watch our show?
I know.
And
Hey, maybe we have a cult following. You think we're Okay, Ed, I'm going to talk to you again here. We're going to start this show off with something I really want to talk about, the coronavirus. You just did the worst possible thing you could do. You touched your face. I do it a lot too. You're going to have to quit picking your nose, Ed.
that's going to be pretty darn tough.
Don't touch your face. And I have questions for you about the coronavirus as it relates to the tribes. Now, if say
Tribes aren't ready.
I know they're not ready, but in case first of all, who funds the tribes with, say, extra masks, that kind of thing? Does the federal government fund them, or are they just psst?
It all depends. If you were to take my class,
I
we talk
did.
about this.
Well, I know though, but if the state declares an emergency, does that cover what's on the res, or do they need to be ready to make their own response to this, to a health emergency?
I hope you're asking us for purposes of educational
I
purposes.
am. I know
and-
the answer, but I want to.
Okay, then tell them the answer
No, you.
then. All right. Well, first of all, let me say that.
I do know it though. Before you go, I just want you to know I know.
No, you
Because
don't.
you think I do too. Because if the would you like me to open the door for you?
Well, let me first lay some,
You
as
lay
they
some-
say, foundation.
You lay some education down on me.
In terms of this process, first of all, by time this airs, I hope we're not looking back and saying, maybe we, should have done more, but we don't know. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, hopefully not panic, but about this coronavirus and what it can do, the potential impact it might have. All we know is we need to be prepared for whatever comes at us. And unfortunately, as is the case most of the time, we're not prepared, both as the country and as tribal communities and as individuals. We need to do a better job at preparing. But it's always a difficult process because most of the time we're doing our best just to keep up with day-to-day activities, and people come along and say, well, you need to have 3 months of this, 2 months of
Yeah.
that, and
Or
it's
even the
hard to
staff.
tell people that.
If one person in Macy or one person in Winnebago gets it,
Or he dog.
or he dog, it's going to go through the tribes like wildfire. And what is going to happen to those people? First of all, where are they going to go to get medical care? I mean, at least in Macy and Winnebago, they have that Winnebago hospital right there. He dog's 45 minutes away from a hospital. And what hospital do you go to? Do you go to the one in Valentine where maybe you have absolutely no health insurance and they throw you out? Or do you go to the one at Indian Health and potentially die?
First, let me say, I've read various articles about this, and mean, it's always difficult to figure out who to believe and who not to believe. You've got, the entire spectrum where people are saying, this is nothing, and The other spectrum is, it's going to wipe out 50% of our population. So it's somewhere in the middle between whatever. But it is always important as a general principle to be prepared for anything that comes at you. But like I said, having said that, it's also difficult to implement those. So there's some basics that we could do
At the tribal level.
at any level.
Share.
Well, as I've been reading, people have been trying to go out and buy masks, and from what I'm reading, people are saying that's really not going to do a whole lot for you. The best thing you can do is to wash your hands
Wash your hands.
and to be careful about what you touch. And I have to say that since this has been in the public forefront, I've done a better job at washing my hands.
Well,
Beforehand.
because it's our age that's dying.
Well, see, the first thing is, one, in people out there, you know who you are. You don't wash your hands, especially after you go to the bathroom. You need to start washing your hands.
They
But-
say 20 seconds. You're supposed to sing the happy birthday
Yeah.
song in your head
Twice. But and
But I don't remember every time. And
To
I
wash
mean,
your
my
hands or to do
no, I mean, I don't remember, like my grandson was chewing on my fingers today and I thought, did you wash your hands after you got done cleaning up the mess in the basement, or in the back room? I don't wash my hands before I touch my grandson every single time.
well, I've been actually making it a point to wash and not just because I'll admit, you go in there and you'll pick a couple of things and
Yeah,
then you
wash,
rinse them off.
rinse.
As opposed to lathering up in the back of your hands and doing the 20-40 seconds, and I've made a conscious effort to do that, and to dry them properly, that kind of thing. And he said that's one of the easiest things that we can do right now. Well, I think as a general rule, I think we're going to be okay. Like I said, I don't know what end of the spectrum that it's going to fall, but I think if we take some basic precautions about our hygiene and be careful about the cleaning up afterwards. It's all about trying to maintain a cleaner environment. I hear there's runs on those Lysol wipes, that kind of thing.
I was in Walmart shopping yesterday and I haven't stocked up or anything. It was just my normal. There was no bleach in the entire store.
But we can do that. And also I've heard the stories about how you need to stock up on food, because here's my biggest fear. We were talking about this in our class today. I think the biggest threat is panic.
Yep.
People are going to panic, and it's going to create hysteria, which is going to. There's a lot of things happen when we panic, and usually most of them aren't good.
No.
For example, and I was telling this story in class today because we were talking about biggest thing is not to panic, and
Well, this is an emergency management problem.
yeah, it is, and that's how come we always preach, trying to be prepared, have plans, what you're going to do, and which, sad to say, from what I'm reading, a lot of tribes don't have
No.
that type of
Well,
planning.
we've talked about this before. A lot of the tribes have emergency managers who have no background in emergency management.
Actually, there's many tribes don't have emergency managers, and some of them aren't fully trained, but are getting there. But my point is that we need to avoid the panic part. The story I was telling was, you remember 9/11,
Yep.
and it started out in the morning and it progressed. And by afternoon, there was a panic. People were trying to, you couldn't get gas. Gas skyrocketed, and all types of other things. There were runs on things at the store. And throughout the entire time, the people were saying, there's not a need to do that. There is a need to prepare yourself and as best you can, but after that, you just have to do the best you can, and hopefully, the people will be in a situation so that we can deal with this without the panic. And even talking about this, I don't want to get a sense that that we're stirring up so that people panic.
We're cognizant. We're
Well,
cognizant.
we're aware.
And if we don't talk about what's going on with the tribes with this, I mean, that little Winnebago hospital, and not only on the reservation, but a lot of these rural hospitals could go down.
I've read where tribes are in the process now of having access to the epidemiologists, the disease people are having, they have access to them through IHS, through the federal resources. So they're attempting to mobilize those right now, which is good, but tribes also need to, to plan for things of how they're going to quarantine, because you're going to need to be able to do that. So that I've read where some tribes are doing this, and that's good, and they should be doing that so that they're prepared for it. And just an example, one of the tribes, the Umatilla tribe in Oregon, one of their casino employees tested positive, so they had to shut down, the casino and do a thorough cleaning. But the biggest problem with that is that even if you do that and you open up, how many people are going to be rushing to go through your
I
doors
wouldn't.
again?
Well, they closed down the Louvre.
So those are the impacts that we're going to see, I think, is people being cautious about what their lifestyle decisions.
Well,
And
where it's going to be hard is at school. I mean, if we don't stop and think to wash our hands, after we played outside, come in and wash our hands, we don't think to do that. You think those kids in kindergarten, first, second, third grade are being concerned about that? I mean, and I've never been afraid. You know what I'm doing? I'm not panicking. I'm not buying a Headwater or anything.
sounds
but
like she's panicking, isn't it,
I
Kenny?
am going to the Ponca Smoke Signals and getting 3 cartons of cigarettes.
Oh, is she gonna smoke? Is she gonna
just in
stock up on
case.
cigarettes?
Yes, I'm not too concerned about food or water.
Water, food,
You know what?
medicine.
I'll have to have water for my coffee. Because even if I have to build a fire in my backyard, there
Who
will
needs
be
soap
coffee.
or Lysol? She just has to have her smokes.
Yep. Well, because I babysit my grandson, Sarah's made sure I have every disinfectant known to man in my house.
All right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But hopefully, like I said, we'll
And it's not to the
we'll
point
get a better
yet.
sense of what's going on in the coming days and weeks. And
Well, and it's not to the point yet where they're saying don't go into big groups, but that's coming. And how does that affect? They were asking some of the candidates, some of the presidential candidates, how does this affect your canvassing? How do you go out and I keep wanting to say recruit, but that's just a Melton thing. How do you go out and get people to vote for you when they certainly are telling people you're supposed to do the elbow bump now. You're
Are
not
we?
supposed to shake hands. We're supposed to elbow bump.
oh, so instead of hitting me with your fist, you're going to hit me
Well,
with you're
elbow
going to
bump.
elbow me in the head, huh?
But you stop and think about that. Your hand is the first thing that goes out to shake hands, especially as a politician. You have to stop and think, because a lot of these politicians running are about 125. Bernie and Biden and Trump. I mean, literally, the coronavirus, and they're gone.
You know what? I'm sort of coronavirused out already.
I just want to make sure that the tribes are getting prepared. And what is the CDC doing? Are they sending out people to help people prepare for this? Or do you just wait till it happens and then people come in and help you?
No, I've been reading that they've been taking some proactive steps. It's just that usually you don't hear about these, but I've been reading some articles and some stories where the tribes are reaching out to the federal government because they're IHS hospitals, so they would have access.
And who's the head of the Department of the Interior?
It-
Someone who is native friendly? Someone who is
I-
going to be willing to funnel
I,
funds
I,
towards
I
in
would
that
I would
direction?
hope that during times like this, it wouldn't matter, what your political affiliation is. Just
Well,
long
that's
as-
because you're a good person. People are saying the Democrats just basically made this up to mess with the.
Well,
with
see,
the-
and I don't even want to get into the political. I just want to talk about tribes need to be prepared. Us as individuals need to be prepared. And I think we do all that we can. That's all that we can ask for, and then we just deal with it, like we do everything every day anyway. We look at our lifestyles as they are. That's what we do. We do the best we can and move on. And that's all we can ask for in this situation. Hopefully, it won't be as dire as some people are saying, and we'll be able to, get through this like we do everything else.
I like the guy when he said, if you're 25 and healthy, you have very little to worry about. I was like, oh, God.
Kenny is
It's
over there
me.
thinking, this ain't gonna hit me.
I know. Would we consider Kenny healthy?
Yeah, he looks pretty healthy.
Are you a healthy guy? Do you work out?
Are we?
You work out?
The question is,
Yeah, I knew it.
are we healthy?
No, see? We're going to be,
We're in
We're
that
in the-
vulnerable population group.
we're the first to go in the smallpox epidemic.
You are, since you're much older than me.
Well, you know what my problem is? I smoke, and this attacks the
She
respiratory
smokes.
system.
You're 15 years older than me.
And what they keep saying, but they had underlying conditions for these people who died. They had underlying conditions. What, age? I would like to know what their underlying conditions are before we
Can
make
we
any
move on?
judgments. Because if one of them is age, I will lock myself in that house. Kenny, I'll be Skyping into the show. I'll be like Howard Hughes. No one will see me till the coronavirus is gone.
Well, shall we move on? See, we've already killed almost more than half the
Well,
show.
don't
on
you
this.
think this is something that our public would like to know? Don't you think people out there are concerned what's going to happen to their relatives on the
Well, by the
reservation?
time this shows up on the.
But you know what? By the time the reservations get ready to fill out all the paperwork to declare a state of emergency, it'll be too late. That
Oh,
was
you're
my
going to answer that
concern.
question
What question?
about resources?
No, I don't remember what the
You
question
said.
was.
You said I know the answer to that.
Well, I don't remember the question.
Howard
so
tribes, what resources will be available to them?
tribes through Indian Health, or resources through Indian Health.
From, Nathan Dallin says, "No, Ed, we want you to get into politics."
What's that?
Yeah.
You want me to get into
said
politics?
it. I'd run your campaign. You'd be good. You love
No.
telling stories.
Nope. Don't.
You've
don't-
got a
don't
big
wanna do
head.
it.
You're kind of an ego
I
driven guy.
ran for city council one time, and that was enough for me.
And for Senate. Man, I see it.
Nope,
you would be
not gonna
great.
happen.
You would be great in a debate. You really would. I love
No.
it. I love it when
I just touched my cheek. I'm sorry.
Ed puts that smile on his face, and then when someone makes him mad, you see his eyes go lawyery, and then you just sit back and wait in anticipation for the dressing down somebody is going to get.
No, it's absolutely not going to happen. I wouldn't go into politics.
I wouldn't either, and I'm a political scientist. This is
I thought you were going to run for Congress.
yeah, no, this is not government for and by the people.
You want to hear? Was there a request for me to get into politics?
Yes,
Yes.
Is that what it was?
yes.
And a follow-up comment: SBA President 2. I don't know what SBA is, but
What's SBA?
No,
Southern Baptist
I
Administration.
ran for I was a Student Bar Association president in law school.
See, you've already had leadership.
Oh yeah, I can step right from there right into Congress.
You know what?
It's a logical step. Student Bar
Hey.
Association president,
The
Congress,
apprentice
Senate.
president. So clearly, anybody can do anything.
You know what? I was accused of being a big tax and spend liberal back then. Because you know what I wanted to do?
What?
Back then, our Student Bar Association fees were $10. $10. I think it was
That
a
had
semester.
to hurt you, though, didn't it?
No. It didn't bother me. But
He's lying, it bothered
No, for that, and Mr. Dallin can ask his dad. When I was president, we had pizza parties once a month. I would venture to guess that for that $10, you probably got about $100 worth of pizza and parties. I was the party president. We would have all types of activities and.
What happened to you? You are no longer the party president.
No, and what I wanted to do, what I was proposing, was that that the Student Bar Association fund a public interest law scholarship over the summer, so that someone who wanted to do public interest law could go and do it and not worry about money, and
See, you're a
to
secret
fund it.
bleeding heart liberal.
To fund it, I proposed a $5 hike in student bar fees to fund. It would have created this really nice little scholarship, and then apparently, so I didn't know about this until afterwards, but apparently some faction of the Federalist Society or whatever, like, oh, he's just a tax and spend. He just wants to tax us and for these liberal causes. And I thought it's a scholarship, $5. How much? you eat $5 worth of pizza when you come to
And
one of
those
our
are the
parties.
people, those are the people that are running the world.
Yeah, and see that, and if people are going to get upset over $5 to fund a scholarship, I mean, I don't want to live in that world
No.
where you have to deal with that kind of stuff. So
No.
no, I'm not.
You know
I'm
what,
not
though?
gonna run
You
for
would be
anything.
good. You really would. You know
No.
how to talk to people. You're a lawyer.
Nope.
You guys are like, no.
No.
Well, my dad was studying, Ed was partying.
That is a true statement, because his dad was like Mr. Brainiac. He was, in
And you
class.
were the party animal? As
You know,
long as
I
it was
studied. Don't get me wrong. I just picked and choose what classes I did well in.
judiciously.
Yeah, there are some classes that I knew I could do well in, and I did. And there are some classes like I had no shot at that. So actually, I remember Mr. Dallin, his dad. I remember specifically, we got our grades, and his dad just really smart, and everybody knew he was really smart. So I got my grades, and back then you did it in paper, a little sheet like this.
Yes.
And I went up and I got the envelope. I said, "Want to look at my grades here, man? I think and I had 5 classes, and 3 of them were pretty high, and the other 2 were just near the bottom. I probably set the record for the greatest disparity in points, top to bottom that semester. He just looked at me. I'm sure he doesn't remember this. He says, "How can you get those kind of grades?" He said, "Sir, you've shown you can. How do you let that happen?" I'm like, you don't live in my life, man, in my world.
How many kids did you have
I had
then?
6.
See?
And I thought
That would kind of
I
pull a
thought,
little.
see, that was my life. I picked and chose what I thought I would do well, and the other ones I just sort of, you know what?
You
I
picked
can
and chose.
I can do enough to get by and pass.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. But as I recall, looking back, see, no one wants to hear this, but since he brought this up, about 25% of my grades in law school were near the top. And the other ones were, just a broad
I used
spectrum
to
of
tell the
things.
kids, C's get degrees.
Yes, but you know what though?
What?
I was the first judge out of my class.
Really?
Yeah,
See?
my first
Zendenet
job.
for Senate.
My first job.
Zendenet for Senate.
My first job out of law school was as chief judge for my tribal court system. There's other stories I could tell too, but I
You should
won't.
write a book.
I did for my kids.
We'll publish it.
No, it's just for my kids. I did. I actually wrote a book on my law school years.
It might explain a lot about you if we knew.
I talked about how it took me, 4 attempts to get in, how I got in, what happened my first year, second year, third year. I talk about, some of the people I met, and it was law school was a really good experience for me because it gave me sort of the confidence to do, because I thought I was going to flunk. I really did.
And you know what? You were right. I should have gone into law school.
I thought I was going to flunk. I mean, that was my biggest worry, was that I was going to flunk
Monica
out.
would not let you.
Oh no, and I was going to quit.
Oh, Monica said no, I imagine.
No. We have to. I got 3 minutes. We can do anything anyway. It was 2 weeks. 2 weeks into the semester, and it was law school just kicking my butt. And I was thinking, I'm not. And you have all these others like Mr. Dallin's dad raise their hand, answer all these questions. I'd sit there and I don't know what's going on, and I would spend a good deal of my time. I studied. I studied
believe
like I've never studied before, and I still think I can't get this. And I was thinking, you know what? And back then we started law school about 2 weeks early. I was doing my master's down in Lincoln, and it was started sometime after Labor Day. And I'm thinking, you know what? I can quit and I can go back and finish my master's on it to do this. And in my mind, I had quit. It was a weekend before Labor Day, and I was going to tell my wife, I was going to go back and start school, and I'd come back for the kids later, and to pack up. And I remember I had a
Where were you moving back to?
I was going to come back to Nebraska. And what happened was, I had my routine. I'd come home for dinner, spend a couple hours with the kids, go back to the law school and study. And I stayed home, ate dinner, started watching TV, and she was like, aren't you going to go back and study? And I was like, talk to you about that. I think I'm going to quit. This is really hard. I don't know if I can do this. And you know what she said?
What?
She said, no. you're not quitting. You're not leaving here until they throw you out. If they throw you out and you flunk out, then we'll go back to Nebraska. But until then, we're not leaving. So you better get back up there. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, grab my stuff and back up there.
And aren't you glad you did?
And at that point, it was actually quite liberating because I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter now. I'm gonna go and do this stuff. If I flunk out, I flunk out. Let's give it my best shot. Whatever happens, happens. And if we flunk out, and then we can go back to Nebraska. And so I went back. I didn't flunk out. I did, like I said, I did well in some classes.
You did well enough to pass the
Well
bar.
enough to get my JD. And to be the first one on my class to be a judge.
Were you the first one in your family to go to college?
Yes, I was, from both sides.
Well,
First one to go to law school. You know who the second one to graduate from college was?
babe,
My daughter.
really?
My sister
But
didn't
did-
graduate until a couple years, yeah. Well, she was the second one to graduate from college, so it was, but a couple have done that since then. But I'm
Is
glad,
Brooklyn a lawyer?
yes, she is.
That's what I
I
thought.
have three of them that are.
Yep.
I'm glad Mr.
just touched my
Dallin brought that up, but I'm not going into politics.
I think you should.
I know, I don't even want to talk about I'm
Kenny could be your PR
I'm
man.
tired of politics.
I could grassroots campaign you.
Although I have much to say about that, I don't. I generally refrain from talking about politics.
He refrains. I do not refrain. But we talk about politics.
Have
a
we
lot.
killed enough time yet, Kenny? Are we done? Anything else Mr. Dallin wants to know?
I don't.
All right, well, we didn't
We
even
will
get,
see you. We'll be back next week.
Did
then
we
we're
do
gonna
anything
take a
of
couple
substance
weeks off.
today? A little
We
bit
talked
about the
coronavirus. That's a very important topic in today's world.
all right, well, we'll see you next week, and hopefully things will be contained and we'll
Have better news.
not have to
Or
panic
if you
about
don't
it.
see us next week,
Just
we
don't
have the
panic, we'll be back.
coronavirus.
Don't panic, we'll be back.
If we're Skyped in, don't ask any questions.
Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.